Many new traders will struggle with knowing how much capital to use for trading and how to balance their risk and reward. I personally started with $1,000, and my reason for that is essentially that's what my mentor told me to start with. On average, I was making maybe $20 to $30 per good trade. It was actually really discouraging to me because I felt like this journey is going to take forever. You ever hear traders tell you you should never risk more than you can afford to lose? When you first start learning to trade, there's always that question of how much should I put into the market for the purposes of learning? And when you ask a mentor that, the answer that you get back is usually not more than you can afford to lose. So whatever that amount is for you, you put that into the market and time goes by and you have some wins, you have some losses, but you're not making life-changing money, right? Because your initial amount that you've invested is always going to be a small amount, because at the time that you put that money in, there's this scarcity mindset around, well, I could potentially lose all of this. As the time goes by and you've traded a little bit and you've built up a little bit of confidence, whilst you may have the record to show that you're kind of consistently profitable, you're still not all that excited by the money that you're making because they simply don't seem life-changing because the wins are quite small. So what happens next? I had a community member ask me recently, what would I do if I inherited a significant amount of money and I wanted to put some of that money into cryptocurrency? How would I decide how much to put in? And ironically, that exact situation actually did happen to me. So I don't have to tell you what I would do. I can tell you what I did do. And my answer isn't going to be specific to those few people out there who may inherit some money someday. My answer is actually going to be relevant to anyone at any point in time along their trading journey when they want to put extra capital into the market and how to know when the right time actually is to do that. My name is Annie and I'm the owner of Trade, Travel, Chill, an online education company that teaches the everyday crypto enthusiast how to invest and trade cryptocurrency. So here's what they asked me. Let me summarize it for you. Annie, let's say you've inherited $50,000 cash for investment and are looking to ease into retirement as a trader. I'm currently a newbie trader with 5 months learning here. What is a good amount of this $50,000 to have in my trading account? So here's the thing. Many new traders will struggle with knowing how much capital to use for trading and how to balance their risk and reward. I personally started with $1,000, and my reason for that is essentially that's what my mentor told me to start with. In doing that, on average, I was making maybe $20 to $30 per good trade. And if I had an amazing trade, maybe sometimes that would get up somewhere between $80 to $100. But a trade like that would have to have been a huge percentage move in the market. One of those massive liquidation hunts that just, they don't come around all that often. So it wasn't regular for me to be making $80 to $100 per trade. What was more realistic was $20 to $30. And so after every good trade, to only see that added up to, you know, a $20 to $30 gain, it was actually really discouraging to me after some time because I felt like this journey is going to take forever. Now, this was at a time where I had lost a really successful business of mine and all of my income was gone. And the reason that is relevant is because at the time trying to learn to trade for the purpose of making money when you need to make money because there is no other way to cover your bills, that has such a profound effect on your mindset. No matter what you believe, there is something underlying when you are trading from the mindset of I need to make money that will hurt you no matter who you are, no matter how much you've worked on yourself. And so in that time, I'd lost my business, I'd lost all my income, I was selling furniture just to pay my rent. I had never been employed, really. Like, I started a business when I was 19 years old. That was my first business. And then I started the second one, I think I was about 23 years old. That was the business that I lost. So I didn't know how I was going to get a job. I didn't want to start a new business because I'd just gone through all of this pain of losing one business. And the only way I knew how to make money was to sell things that I had. So I'm selling furniture, I'm selling clothes, I'm selling shoes. All of these things that I had accumulated through the wealthy period of my life were now things that I had to sell off just to stay alive. And at the same time as all of that happening, I also lost my father. He passed away, and as I was going through this grieving process, my family member sued me for the inheritance. So not only did I have to figure out, how the hell was I going to cover my rent every month, I also had to figure out how am I going to pay for these legal bills that I don't even want. So I was like severely stuck. I was in a severely bad money mindset. And I tell you that because it's relevant, because a lot of people who learn to trade are in that same situation. Regardless of how you get into that situation, a lot of people learn to trade because they want freedom and they want another solution that doesn't rely on them trading time for money. I tell you that because I want you to know that my trading journey started in the exact same place. And when I talk about removing attachments to money, I talk about it from experience because I had to do that. And so in that point of time where I had put $1,000 in and I had $50,000 legal bills, but I was only trading and making $20 to $30 per trade, I just realized like this is going to take me so long. I don't have this time. I need more money. And so as a result, I started taking bigger risks. And that was really, really bad. I was using high leverage. I was using cross leverage, risking a lot more. For, if I'm risking 1% of my account on $1,000 account to make $20, $30 per trade, what if I just risk the whole account? Because, I'm winning a lot of the time. I'm generally profitable. So what difference does it make? And so then, I would start putting my entire account on trades so that I could make more in my wins without actually factoring in that whilst that might work, I'm also going to lose more on my losses. And very, very soon after going down that rabbit hole and letting greed essentially take over and not understanding that I was coming from a place of desperation, I blew my account and I blew it within a week. So that set in a whole new level of panic because that was the only chance I had of making money. I was lying on my bed crying, not knowing what I'm going to do next. A friend just happened to call me just to check in, a general check-in, caught me at the right moment. I told her what was going on and she said to me, I'll lend you $600. Now, can I tell you, when you are a highly successful entrepreneur, which is what I was, the business that I had was the largest of its kind in the world. The fall was massive. When I tell you going from having that level of self-made success to needing to borrow $600 from your friend, there is nothing more humiliating. It was really, really a big, big low in my life. And I'd never in my life have ever borrowed money. But this was a friend I knew I could trust and I knew that she wouldn't throw it back in my face, even if I could never repay that $600. So I took the money and this time I had an advantage that I didn't have prior. And that advantage was I now know what it feels like to blow an account and all of the lessons that come along with that. And so with that $600, I decided to start again, but I had to block out the attachment to money. And I knew that I had to do some serious work to do this. It's not really something that you can do yourself, especially when you're in such a state of desperation. And so I knew that I had a few things that I could fix myself. For example, one of the things I realized was I was hanging on too much to the result in a dollar figure. And my mentors had taught me that for a long time, that you need to switch your brain from thinking about the dollar figure of your trades to the percentage figure of your trades. You need to erase the idea of the monetary value completely. So that was one thing I really started to focus on, was don't look at how much money I've made per trade. Look at the percentage gain in my wins and losses. And for any trader out there, make that your first focus, to remove your attachment to the money, to that dollar figure. Pretend it doesn't exist. You're not looking for the dollar sign at the start of the numbers. You're looking for the percentage sign at the end. That's because trading is all about compounding gains until you end up with a trading account the size that you want it. And the sooner you can get your head around that, the sooner $1,000 will turn into $10,000. So for me, I realized that and I decided, okay, this is going to be my focus instead. And I honestly think that one little tweak in my mindset was the first step that kick-started any possible chance I had of being successful in any way, shape or form. The second thing I did was block out all of my problems. So I called my lawyer and I said, I can't do this. And it was all just too much when I was already in a low state. I didn't even want to be in this situation. And he fully took everything over. It was probably another one of the really, really good decisions that I made. I was like, just take it out of my hands. I can't do anymore. Let me focus on what I can control, which is coming up with a plan to better my future. And then from there, I started switching the stories that I would tell myself. So prior to this happening, as soon as I paid my rent, my mind would go into how am I going to pay it next month? Literally. And then for 30 days, every day I would wake up, how am I going to pay it? How am I going to pay it? How am I going to pay it? Every day it was my first thought. And so I switched that thought from how am I going to I'm going to. It was just going to happen. The money will come from somewhere. Everything's going to be okay. Don't worry. In 30 days, when you have to pay the rent again, the money is going to be there. I can't explain why or how, but it was always there. As soon as I changed that thought in my mind, it actually did always show up in some way or another. And so then it was time to get really, really, really focused. That was the only thing that I could control, was developing a skill so that I could be so great at that skill, so that no matter whatever happened to me again in my life, nobody could ever take that away from me again. And that is where I realized that trading really is the only thing that can guarantee you that, right? Because even if you have a business can get taken away from you. If you have a job, you can get fired. Like, nothing really is the ultimate level of freedom and security than what trading is, because there is nothing that can happen that can take my skill away from me now to the point that will ruin my life. If crypto became illegal all over the world tomorrow, it doesn't matter, because the skill is the same, and I could just take that skill and put it into Forex or into stock market, or there's always going to be something to trade. So if I have this skill, I'm invincible. And that was my driver to get really, really good at this. And so with that $600, that was the decision that I made, that I was going to take this money, borrowed money, and get really, really good by focusing only on the skill and not the dollar value result of every trade that I took. What started to happen over time was that $600 started to grow. Now, at the same time, I sort of knew in the back of my mind that eventually my financial problems were going to be over. You know what I mean? This had to come to an end at some point. And so that was another driver to me. I mean, whether it's that or another way that you make money, at some point, something will happen that will end the situation that you're in now. And you have to know that, and you have to believe that. It comes back to, what can I control and what is out of my hands that I have to just leave to the universe to figure out for me? I couldn't control how soon she was going to drop this, but I could control how well I learned this skill. So I decided, however long it takes for that problem to no longer exist in my life, I was going to spend that time focusing on the skill, so that when that problem is over, I now have the skill, then I will have capital, and then I can make a decision from there. And so when that settlement day did come, I now had significant money. I now had to decide what I was going to do with it. Now, the average person will probably just take a chunk of that money and throw it into crypto and not even think twice about it. That was my thought the entire time. I thought I probably would do that too. But when it actually came, that's not actually what happened. So first of all, what happened was, and this might be specific to inheriting money, this might not be a problem that you will face if capital happens to come to you another way, but for me, guilt was a huge thing. I was literally frozen. I couldn't touch that money. I didn't know what to do with it. Even though I had my plans prior to receiving it, I was frozen. I couldn't touch it. And the reason I couldn't touch it is because I had this guilt of, okay, I've got this money now as a result of my father wanting to take care of me after he passed away, but I would rather have my father back than have this money. And so that took me a long time to deal with the fact that I didn't have that choice either. And so that was the first thing. And then the second thing was also the guilt of not knowing how he would want me to spend that money. So I just couldn't touch it for a really long time. Eventually, I started praying to him. I would talk to friends, I would talk to therapists, and eventually one of the therapists said to me, your father left that money to you because he knew that you would make the right decision about what to do with it. That statement was the one that kind of helped me to clear the guilt around using his money. This wasn't supposed to be an emotional video. So here's what I decided to do. The first thing I decided to do was pay off all of my bad debt. I cancelled all of my credit cards and I actually negotiated with the banks to reduce my debt. And I ended up paying them out in full, most of them somewhere between 20 to 30 cents in the dollar, which you might think, how is that possible? Like, doesn't a bank want their full payment back? In my period of being really down and out, I learned how the banking system works, and I learned that whilst I'm a good girl, paying the minimum balance on my credit cards every single month, I am an asset to the bank. I make the bank look good to their shareholders. But the second I stop doing that, I become a liability to the bank, and the bank doesn't want the liability, and the bank will sell that liability to keep the shareholders happy. Who do they sell it to? They sell it to debt collectors, and they sell it at 20 to 30 cents in the dollar, because even that is better than holding on to it. So I thought to myself, well, if you're willing to sell it to debt collectors and I can pay for it that up front, then you should just sell it directly to me and we cut out the middleman. Now, I make it sound a little bit easy, but it wasn't. I had to go through a very, very big battle, and I had to find some kind of inner strength to take on banks when I was at a low and I didn't really have that kind of strength. But I had power. I had power because I had the upfront capital to do it. And so the best way, in my opinion, to use that capital was to negotiate really, really hard. You ever hear people say you can't draw blood from a stone? That's how I was. That was my frame of thought all the time as well. If they come after me, if they send legal letters, what are they going to do? You can't draw blood from a stone. I'm not worth anything. I've lost everything. You know, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? So that actually gave me strength. I'm not recommending that you go down to the depths of like the worst possible situation in your life to find strength, but you probably hear that like many entrepreneurs who find ultimate success have failed many times before they get there. Look at Elon Musk, right? And that's because strength is born out of hitting massive lows. If you get up from that, you just get better and better each time. It's not a matter of how many times you fall down. It's a matter of how many times you get up after that. So that was the first thing I did. And the goal of that was just to help me feel a little bit more secure, because the more secure I feel, the more free I feel to go ahead to create the next stage of my life. So the second thing I did in order to feel secure was I put money into a trust fund for my daughter. So I knew that, you know, something should happen to me. There is money there for her. And then I put into savings 1 year's worth of all of my expenses, including emergency funds. And the reason I did that is because they say that in general, it takes around a year for you to become a profitable trader. So I thought, well, if I have all of my expenses, including potential emergencies, locked away for a year, then I can fully focus on trading, because I don't have to think about where is the money going to come from for the rent and whatnot. And I also don't have to have that mindset of I need to make the money from trading to pay my rent. I know worst case scenario, if it doesn't come in from trading that month, then I have this bank of money that I've put aside for the purpose of picking me up on the months when I don't make any money. And then the final thing that I did was I just worked out, if I wanted to live my personal ultimate life, how much money per month would I need to do that? I wanted to know what size did my trading account have to be in order for me to cover those expenses every month so that I could live the life that I wanted to live. And I pretty much worked backwards. So I worked out, okay, what is that amount of money that I would need? Then I worked out statistically, they say that a good trader will achieve about a 10% account growth per month. Some months you're going to make nothing. Some months you're going to go backwards. Some months you'll do 10%. Sometimes you'll do a lot more. But on average, over a 12-month period, what defines a good trader is the average of about a 10% account growth per month. So I worked out that, and let's just say roughly I wanted $10,000 per month. That would mean that I needed a $100,000 trading account, and it needed to remain at $100,000 every month in order for me to be able to live off trading. So now I had my year's worth of money put away. I had my goal set, and all I had to do from this point on was focus on getting really fucking good. So I had a few months of trading journal history under my belt, and I actually wanted about 6 months in total, which is not ideal. Like, I really do think you need 12 months, but the advantage that I had was I had lost everything in my life. So now I had all the time in the world to get great. And so I was trading 13, 14 hours a day and gaining the experience on the charts, probably probably much quicker than the average person would do. Plus, I'm just generally a person that I like to walk in the footsteps of my mentors. So if I find something that is really, really good and it's been really successful for someone else, just give me the rules and I'll just do that. If I respect someone and I think they're genuinely successful, just tell me what you do and I'll do that. Because to me, that's a shortcut to success. So after about that 6 months worth of data, and I felt like I was consistently profitable and I knew that I had the method that I wanted, I didn't want to jump around and learn anything else anymore. I was happy with that. I had tried other things prior, but this was the one that made sense to me. It was only at that point that I then felt okay to add more capital to my account. So remember, this whole time, I'm still trading off my friend's $600, even though I had just gained a significant amount of inheritance money. So at that point, I decided to put in about $20,000. That's not a lot of money either, really, but what I realized was that first allocation of adding capital to your trading account brings along a new level of emotions that you have to deal with. Because now, sure, your gains are bigger, but so are your losses. And you can't help it, even though you've done all of this training in your mind to only focus on percentages and not the dollar. When you add a significant amount of money to your trading account, you automatically go back to looking at the dollars. And I realized that, and I knew that that would potentially happen to me. And those heart palpitations of like, what if this trade goes the wrong way? I'm gonna lose a much bigger amount than I'm used to. All of that comes back. So every level that you go in trading, there's always new levels of mindset, things that you have to deal with. And this was one. So that's why I didn't go fully into what I was willing to put into my account. I started with $20,000 so that I could deal with those new lessons that I was gonna have to deal with, get used to that, conquer that, and then I could add more. And so that's what I did. I jumped that hurdle and I ended up adding more money into crypto. And I think in total, in the end, I added about $50,000 in that cycle. So if you somehow come into money, whether it's money that you've had on the sidelines for a long time, for whatever period, it doesn't really matter where the extra capital comes from. But if you come into a significant amount of money, or you're just at the phase where you feel like, okay, I've learned enough based off this small trading account, I want to add more funds to my trading account because I want my gains to be bigger, then here's my advice. When you first start to learn, consider the amount of capital that you're willing to put in a cost of education. Consider it gone before you start. Expect to make nothing from it other than learning lessons. Now, whatever amount of money you decide that is for you, halve it. One half is what you're going to put into your trading account. Why? Because the same thing that happened to me is likely to happen to you. You are likely to blow that entire initial amount. If you halve it, you now have the other half as reserve funds to put back in to try again. But again, same situation as me, you now have the lessons that go along with it. You have what it feels like to blow an account. It doesn't even matter if it's a small amount of money, it doesn't feel good because you only blow account if you're wrong. And so that's another level of ego that you have to deal with as a human, being wrong. Now, number 3 is you need a minimum 6 months trading history or 10,000 trades to test any one trading strategy. If you don't give it that time and you say this strategy doesn't work for me, it's not the strategy, it's you. You didn't have enough patience to learn it to the level that you need to learn it to make it work for you. So minimum 6 months or 10,000 trades before you can adequately evaluate if the trading strategy that you're learning is the right trading strategy for you. Number 4, you do not consider yourself successful at trading until you have a minimum 6 months average profit of 10% per month, and that's providing you have all the time in the world to trade. If you don't, if you're juggling other things, then that minimum bumps up to 12 months. So a good 12 months trading history that averages out to a minimum 10% account growth per month is the adequate amount of time for you to assess your trade journal results and decide if you are genuinely profitable enough to be able to add funds to your trading account. Number 5, once you've met that criteria, only add your extra funds slowly. Because like I said to you, you're going to have new demons to deal with. You're going to go back to looking at the dollar value and the losses feeling a lot more significant than what you're used to. You have to learn to jump those hurdles. So just add a little bit at a time until you end up fully allocated into what you want to be in your trading account. Now listen, I get it. I'm sitting here telling you what to do and all you're hearing is wait 12 months, don't spend money, and all that's going on in your head is, well, I don't have 12 months, I want it now, I'm in crypto, I want fast money. Like, I get it. I get all of these thoughts that are going through your head right now, but believe me, if you try to rush this before you're ready, you will become part of the statistic of 97% of people that don't make it as traders. If you don't want to be part of that statistic, slow down. The best thing about trading is it doesn't discriminate. It is an equal playing field for anyone, and you have as much chance of making it as the person next to you. There is no reason why it can't be you over anyone else. You can have everything you want. You can have the life you want. You can help family. You can travel. Whatever it is that is your reason for wanting to learn to trade, you can have the outcome you want, but you need to slow down and you need to take it seriously, and you need to do everything in the right order, follow your rules, and don't try to allocate too much capital that's going to mess with your mind. If you want to wake up every day and do whatever it is that you want to do and you want to live a life on purpose, know that you can have it. Just follow the steps and know that your time is coming.